Hey everyone, welcome back to Coach Doc Ministries. In today's video, we're continuing our Reframing lecture series, talking today about God. This is going to be a good one, so grab a drink and a snack. Let's get to it. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another lecture in religion and spirituality. I'm Coach Doc, your host for this evening, and tonight we're going to talk about God. Yeah, I know, no small subject at all. No challenge tonight, right? All right, just some quick background on me and who I am and why I do what I do. I grew up in the church, became an atheist when I was in my teen years. There were just so many questions that couldn't be answered. So many questions I kept bringing up that just my family, no one could really answer for me. So I swung that pendulum all the way to atheism. And I was the definition of militant atheism for about a decade of my life. Then in my mid-20s, I met this wonderful woman who I would end up marrying. And she really led me back to Jesus. And I spent quite a bit of time in the church again, in the Protestant church this time. Really, I was youth elder and all that fun stuff. And about 9 years ago, I hit a massive wall in my religious life. I began to undergo the arduous struggle of religious deconstruction, where all the questions I had of a youth came back. Everything started to unravel. And I was not in the position in my life for that to happen. And I was in seminary when this happened. I was in a PhD program. I mean, I was on track to be a pastor. And I had to battle through it. I had to battle through this process. I just couldn't leave everything behind because I constantly felt there was this tug on my heart that there was that the God wouldn't let me go. That the divine wasn't letting me gonna swing that pendulum again to atheism. And I ended up landing in Judaism. And my spiritual life has absolutely flourished since I became a Jew. I know that sounds crazy to go from Christian to Jew, and usually it's the other way around, but I did it. And while I am, technically a Jew, I'm officially Jewish, my theology and my perspective on life is really in between the Christian and the Jewish faiths. So I've taken what works for me from both faith traditions, the Jewish and the Christian, and I've kind of molded them into something that really works for me and has really helped me grow in my relationship with God and grow me in a spiritual way. So my YouTube channel and these lectures and things like this, they're my attempt to help other people go through that deconstruction process. Because it sucks. Oh my gosh. It sucks to go through this, to have everything you hold dear just challenged and re-examined over and over and over again. And I don't want anyone to go through it alone like I had to. And I know most people who listen and attend these lectures and my sermons are really one exit ramp away from atheism. I know you're driving away. You're fed up with the church, you're fed up with the synagogue, and you're at the point of, you know what, F this, I'm out. And I want to meet you there before you hit that atheist off-ramp. I want to help you grow in your awareness of the divine that's all around us, and to help you shape a personal religious structure that helps you grow spiritually. I tell people that the first step towards living a sincere spiritual life is acknowledging that there's something bigger to me in the universe. And here, tonight, we refer to that as God. That sound like a good deal? Y'all ready? All right, let's get on topic. As we get started, let me get a couple legal disclaimers out of the way. First and foremost, I do not have all the answers. Yeah, how about that for a humble beginning, right? Kind of a letdown. Come here expecting, oh, hey, I'm going to learn everything I need to know. Probably not. I wish I knew everything. But honestly, philosophers and theologians have been debating the question of God for thousands of years. Without a lot of consensus, by the way. Who is God? Where is God? What is God? Why is God? How is God? These are all gigantic questions that require serious discussion. Incidentally, if you ever come across someone in your life who tells you they do have all the answers, you need to run. You need to run away, run far, run fast. No one has all the answers, okay? Second, nothing discussed here tonight is meant to be dogmatic. My desire is only to present a view of God that has helped me continue my spiritual journey through this life. I'm presenting this as a path, not the path. So I'm just going to expose you to a bunch of different ideas. I'm going to let you make up your mind because I don't want to tell you what to think. Okay, that's a big thing for me. I want to tell you how to think, not what to think. Okay? Critical thinking is a huge part of what I teach here at Coach Doc Ministries. All right? So, we are going to reframe God. So let's start off with what it means to reframe. So reframing is a psychological process of identifying and changing the way situations, experiences, events, ideas, emotions, how they're viewed. Reframing is a key part of the deconstruction process. As our core religious beliefs get challenged, we need to refine or redefine old concepts so they fit into the paradigm we're living in now. Religious concepts you learn as a child very rarely actually help you as an adult. And that's what reframing really is. It's taking old concepts and applying new definitions. Because that's a big thesis of ours here in Coach Doc Ministries, is that we see people all the time whose what they learn as a child doesn't help them as an adult from a religious standpoint. And the reframing is a key part of the process of, I'm going to take words that you've learned before, words you've known for your whole life. I'm going to redefine them. I'm going to give you a better way to look at them and more options for you to go, okay, I can continue to use that word. I can continue to walk this path. And that's really what reframing is. All right, let's dive in. There are many reasons people struggle with their faith. Reasons people leave the religious tradition that they're in. And today we're going to focus on God. Specifically, the poor definitions for God that lead to a lack of relationship. All right, let's start with some of the traditional views and concepts of God. You know, what we learned early on in life. So, stop me if one of these, well, don't stop me. Let me keep going. But nod your head if one of these definitions, these metaphors, these descriptors of God match kind of what your view is. All right, God is a dictator who rules through fear, demanding perfect obedience to ancient rules and lashing out against anyone who violates them. God is primarily the lawgiver, the judge, the source, and the enforcer. People who want a gracious, compassionate God better look somewhere else. All right, some nodding there. Or, God is a father, a king in the sky who performs miracles, rewards us when we're good, punishes us if we're bad, and really enjoys our repetitive prayers to Him. God is a personality who intervenes in the world to reward and punish in this life and in the afterlife. All right? Or, God is out there somewhere. He's the guy in the sky, a personal being residing in some kind of cloud-filled heaven beyond the physical universe. He, of course, is an object different and distant from me. Some kind of lovely supernatural form, you know, the bearded father, long beard, robe, white, sitting on a throne, that kind of dude. People are always bowing and begging to this God. The God that sits up in heaven, watches and keeps account of every word you do, every deed you do, writing everything in his book, getting ready to punish you for all your sins. Some of us have known that God. To be completely blunt, all of these are a child's view of religion. For many of you listening today, God was used as a stick to hurt and abuse. And to be honest, when this is the only version of God that you know, no wonder it can leave you with resentment and a weak attachment to God and a disdain for religious life. It's no surprise that given these traditional views for God, more and more people are leaving behind religious life, discarding belief in God. I'd be willing to bet many, perhaps even most, people who say they do not believe in God actually mean they do not accept many or any of the traditional metaphors that we use when describing and discussing God. As Rabbi Arthur Green puts it, I don't believe in God is often really, I don't believe in the God of my childhood fantasy, and I've been given nothing to take its place. So let's unpack and reframe this. Let's go one step at a time. All right. So who or what is God? Well, none of us in this room, everyone in this room stands on the shoulders of somebody else. I'm included. So standing on the shoulders of scholarship. First, let's start with this. God cannot be reduced to any person or thing, not a body or an object. God is not a character in the Bible, but rather the vital life force that unfolds throughout time and space, supporting and renewing creation moment to moment. God is not a figure in the sky who thinks and acts, who feels and directs. God is the source of all life. God is seen wherever life is lived, and God is not alien or separate from that life. God is the source of love. God is seen wherever love is shared, and God is not alien to or separated from that love. God is the ground of being. God is seen everywhere you have the courage to look, and God is not alien or separate from the life, all the life around us. God is the source of energy, of purpose, of goodness, the ultimate connection between all beings, and has been there since the beginning of time. God does not refer to a supernatural being out there. Rather, the word God refers to the sacred at the center of the universe, the holy mystery that is around us and within us. When I say God, I simply mean this: the enormous and complex set of natural forces and laws that brought the universe into being, that continue to govern its evolution on every scale, from the grand scale of the universe itself to the subatomic. To put simply, God is the force that transforms the acorn into the oak tree. Let me get a little more simple. The first prayer every Jewish child learns is called the Shema. It's from Deuteronomy 6:5. It goes like this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. The Lord is one here. affirms that God is a part of everything, that we are all connected to each other and to all of creation. This is how I approach God. All right, bottom line. What I teach is God as a figure that stands above creation and is simultaneously the very stuff of creation. Scholars of religion refer to this theological perspective as pantheism. Now, pantheism is a bunch of different Greek words, okay? So, pan means all, en is in, and theos is God. So it's this view that God is the animating force behind the universe, while at the same time, paradoxically, is also transcendent and outside and beyond the universe. All right, so pantheism does not mean that the universe is synonymous with God. That's not what it means. Instead, it maintains that there is more to God than the material universe. In pantheism, God is immanent, but it also maintains a transcendent character who is viewed as the creator. In pantheism, God is everything, and yet God is greater than everything, seen as the one reflected in the many. God is present throughout all of existence. At the same time, this whole is mysteriously and infinitely greater than the sum of all its parts, and cannot be fully known or reduced into the constituent pieces. Whew. Okay, that's enough scholarship. That's enough academic jargon, right? Pantheism, searching for God, the way I teach, is about slowing down. It's about cultivating awe and awareness, awe and wonder. You see, awe is all about appreciating your place in the endless possibility of the universe. Awe is an act of insight into the meaning greater than ourselves. It's a way of being with the mystery of all reality. See, as we nurture awe, we deepen our connection with God, to the oneness of the universe, which helps us recognize the godliness of all creation. Wonder is a battery that never runs out of power. When you learn to tap into it, you'll never run out of spiritual energy. Nothing is inconsequential. When you look at everything around you, the life all around you, as God, nothing is inconsequential. A falling leaf, a bird call, the shape of a cloud. This is how you cultivate awe. All right, notice that what I'm not saying here, and this is extremely important. What am I not saying here? I am not saying God is the tree, okay? Or that the rock is God. I'm not saying to worship the sun and the moon. I'm not saying any of that. Please don't. I'm not saying any of that. What I am saying is to slow down. And when you notice the glory of the world around you, allow it to point you, to remind you about God. Let creation point you to the Creator. We've all seen a sunset, all the beautiful colors in the sky, and held a newborn baby, and how we just, it gives us that feeling, that moment where we pause and we're like, wow, that's amazing. We've all had that feeling of wonder, that wow factor. That is God manifesting. Be on the lookout for these encounters with the divine. They're what I call God sightings. Well, where can we see? Where can we have these God sightings, right? Well, as we talked about earlier, the primary audience for the YouTube channel and the lecture series and the sermons and everything we do here is the Christian or the Jew who is that one off-ramp from atheism. Someone who's struggling with their faith tradition or worse, being pushed out by their faith tradition. Having said all that, let's look at our Bible and see if we can find an answer in there. Because the Bible is a book we've used for 3,000 years to have a conversation about God. And I'm going to use it too. Not just in the literal context, not literally. I use it as a reference because it's familiar, because I'm talking to Christians, and because I'm talking to Jews. You know the stories. You know the references. You're familiar with it. You're familiar with this because it's the language of the tradition that you're from. Why in the world would I go to something else when we have a language that we all share? So I use the Bible in this context, and I want to bring your attention to Exodus chapter 3. Where do we see God? Exodus chapter 3. See, in Exodus 3, we read about Moses' encounter with the burning bush. And in verse 5, let me get there. In verse 5, we read, "Take off your sandals, for you are on holy ground." God's message to Moses was very simple. The land you are standing on is holy. You see, wherever you stand, whatever upbringing you have, whatever environment you find yourself starting from, that is a holy place. Wherever you stand in life, it's a holy place, and there's an opportunity to learn, to come closer to God if we remove our sandals. A metaphor for our personal barriers to growing our spiritual life. God is there to bring us closer. If approached with the proper awareness, every moment can be an opportunity to observe the divine. Now, there are a vast multitude of ways to describe God. Metaphor after metaphor after metaphor. We went over a lot of them at the very beginning. So I'm not going to limit this just to some kind of academic, pantheistic lecture. And that'd be kind of boring, right? None of you are here to learn theology, that level of theology. But I want to step back and say, yes, I look at God as the creation. I look at God as the creator of the creation. But it doesn't stop me from personifying God. See, most of you here, you grew up in the church, and there's an enormous importance placed upon the relationship with God, building it, and growing it, and maintaining it. Look around you. Go ahead and look around you. All the relationships you have today are with what? People. Using this relationship as a person metaphor is a reference to your relationship with God makes total sense in this context. Our relationships are built person to person. It's what we know, and it's how you define relationship. I too choose to personify God, to relate to God in the second person. I choose that path of personification because it affirms my own personal, and it calls upon me to be the best person I can be. The personal image of God serves as a bridge, between myself and the mystery beyond. I seek to serve, to devote my life to a higher purpose, to stand before God. I cannot do that without the language of the personal. As I don't know anybody else, can you enter a relationship with something not a person? A personal relationship that doesn't include a person. I want a God who can call upon me to transcend myself, to demand of me deeper reach, higher purpose. Yes, absolutely. Pantheism, the theology, helps me immensely in my conceptual understanding of God. But I hear and I heed that call to holiness in my life from a personal God, not from some academic or abstract definition. So let's keep going. Let's talk about this relationship with God. One of the most commonly used metaphors for a relationship with God is walk with God. This is one you hear in the church all the time, and it quite honestly is one of the oldest forms of piety in the entire Bible. So what does this look like day to day? walking with God. And this, to me, is the most important aspect. Walking with God. Let's go. Genesis 1:27. So God created human beings in his own image. And in the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. You see, when you look in the mirror, you see the reflection of God. And when you look at another person, you also see the reflection of God. You want to have a relationship with God, you want to have a relationship with the divine, it starts with your relationship to people. How we relate to God affects how we relate to people and vice versa. I can't stress this enough. How we relate to other people affects the way we think about God. Reverence for God is shown in our reverence for people. Our love of God is to be demonstrated by the love we share for others within the human sphere. Because we are all made in the divine image, how we treat others is a direct relation on our relationship with God. Our walk with God. It's a direct reflection of the relationship we have with God and our walk with God. In Matthew 25, we see the rabbi telling a parable about the end times. While I completely disagree with his theology, his end times discussion, Jesus makes an incredible point about the connection between God and humans. It's Matthew 35, 37 through 40. And the righteous ones will reply, Lord, when did we ever see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink, or a stranger and show you hospitality, or naked and give you clothing? When did we ever see you sick or in prison and visit you? And the king will say, I tell you this, when you did it to the least of these my brothers and sisters, you were doing it to me. It's very simple teaching. Powerful, profound. Serve God by serving others. Show love for God by loving others. That's what it means to walk with God. Walk in step with God. It means walking in step, walking and showing reverence and showing respect and dignity towards the people in our lives. We're all made in the image of God. That's what it means to walk with God. That's what it means to truly, it's an aspect of that divine relationship. It's about the awe and the wonder of seeing God, of letting the creation point you to the Creator. And it's about walking with God by walking with respect and dignity with everyone else in your life. All right, so there's no way I could do a lecture about the nature of God and our relationship to the divine without mentioning the word belief. Specifically, belief in God. I'm going to ask you to do something really crazy. I'm going to urge you right now to move away from this notion of belief. Let me go back to Exodus and tell you why. Exodus 14:31. Thus Israel saw the great work in which the Lord had done in Egypt. So the people believed the Lord and his servant Moses. The word here for believed does not have the meaning in the sense of believing that God exists. All right, to get all geeky on you here, there is no word in ancient Hebrew or any Near Eastern language for belief in. See, as the term is used in the Hebrew Bible, in the Jewish Bible, in the Old Testament, however it is that you relate to it, it's not belief in, but rather belief that. Putting your trust in God. Belief that God will come through. Belief that it'll work itself out. Belief that God stands beside you. It is about trust. Trust is a deep knowing that God delivers what you need in each and every moment. It is not to trust that any particular result will happen, but to trust that whatever the result, God will be there in it. I hardly ever tell people that I believe in God. I know it's crazy, right? I'm standing up here teaching you about God. I have a whole channel full of religion videos. I do lectures and sermons. Yeah, I don't believe in God. I tell people I know God. And how do you get to know God? It's through experience. By walking through your life with the awareness of the life around you, the divine all around us, and looking out for those God sightings, seeing the divine image in everyone that you meet, treating everyone with dignity and respect because they too are made in the divine image. Get away from belief in God. Know God. Experience God. All right, last call. One final note before we move on, before we head out. Many of you listening to this are angry with God. For whatever reason or reasons, God has let you down, has hurt you, maybe you feel like God has abandoned you. Or you've had some terrible things done to you in the name of God. And you've expressed this anger to God. You're mad and frustrated and not been shy about letting God know. Look in my eyes, look in my face. Hear my voice. Confronting God, especially in hurt and anger, means you take God seriously. Let me say that again. Confronting God, especially in hurt and anger, means you take God seriously. Allow that anger to work itself out. Anger itself points to the fact that God is a relationship you value. If you didn't value God in your life, you would not be angry. All right. This was kind of a lengthy one. Let's summarize. Don't view God specifically as just a concept, as an article of belief, but rather as an element of experience. All of creation is infused with the divine. There is God. God is in everything you see, everything you touch. There is nothing in the world other than God. God is everything. And there is thereby absolutely nothing that is devoid of God's essence. We can seek God in the good things people do for one another, in the miracles of nature, in our ability to change, in our ability to grow. We encounter God's presence in moments of awe and wonder, in acts of justice and compassion, in loving relationships, and in the experiences of the everyday. As we nurture awe, we deepen our connection to God, to the oneness of the universe, which helps us recognize the godliness in all of creation. The answer to the question, where is God, is wherever you look. I hope you enjoyed today's video. As always, like and subscribe if you'd like to see more of this type of content. If you have specific topics you'd like to see covered, please leave a comment below and we'll work to address them in upcoming videos. Thank you.